If I'm riding a tour, I've got to be up there. I've got to have a chance of winning, else I get a bit disillusioned. I think I won't be in the first three at least.
Although it was 14 days of, well, I won't say absolute torture, that's a silly exaggeration, but it was very, very hard work.
I used to race every single week. It was fantastic, really. We had a brilliant calendar, the amateur calendar. I could race a top-class race every week, all the different parts of the country. I always liked road racing because when you crossed the line first, you knew you'd won. In the time trialling world, you crossed the line, you did a good time, but you could sit there an hour and a half waiting for have you won, which was a bit frustrating at times. I had got a good following in the Staffordshire area. Obviously, I'd been successful for over a few years. This was billed up as, you know, the one I got with, which is nothing. I hate being in that situation because everybody expects you to do it. I'm always worried in case I fail. I've always belittled myself, and then when I've done it, I think, well, I'm all right. I've always said, you know, I'm not going very well, or this, that and the other, and then deep down I think I've got a chance here, but I'd never let it be well known like him. But I mean, I got well known for that in the end, actually. He's always got aching legs, then he rips the legs off, it's like, you know, but I think that's the best way to be, rather than being big-headed and saying I'm going to do this and do that. I always liked winning like that because then I knew I'd won. Most convincing style. If you took two hands off the handlebars, they were liable to disqualify you. So I didn't take the risk. That's like the jersey, what everybody wanted, the British Champions jersey. So then, every race you rode in that jersey. You were identified as a national champion.
I came into the race being a pretty good rider in Britain generally. I mean, that year I won 13 races in 65 of one sort or another, but I'd never ridden in such a high quality field as in the milk race in 1965. I'm afraid these pictures in black and white make us look as if we're out of the 1920s. I stood on the starting line among the crowds, looking at the other riders around me from all over Europe, wondering really if I was going to manage the first 55 miles to London.
The longest I'd ever ridden was 2 days, so I didn't know what I was letting myself in for. Now that one of the milk races, I don't know which one, was 15 days, no rest day. Well, I mean, I was getting into the unknown here.
It's like riding a very hard, average 110-mile road race every day.
You get to the start line, they drop the flag and your legs are solid from the previous day's racing.
We came up one of the steepest hills in Britain. The whole bunch got off and ran up because none of us had a gear that we could actually ride up on it. Two riders did ride up, Les West and I think a Polish rider. They outpaced us as we ran up the hill and they stayed away to the finish in Newcastle.
This area is similar to the area I train in, tell you the truth, around the Peak District. I used to look forward to these sort of days. Some of the climbs we went up, you know, with these cars, they used to boil over when they were really steep. They used to get in the way in the end.
The Russians appeared for the first time and we were expecting the Russians to take the field apart. They were a step ahead of everyone else.
The Russians used to rate the Poles and the Poles used to rate the Russians. What I used to do is play one against the other. If you had two Russians in a break and two Poles, God, that was it. They used to fly. Because they both try to outdo each other. And if I was in the middle of them, I think this is all right, you don't need to even do a turn.
They spent a lot of time passing water, urinating as they rode. And we were all rather suspicious of this, but later on we discovered that they were experimenting with hydration and they were taking on lots of fluid before the races and then having to get rid of lots of it during the races.
I never did much in the sprints at all. I used to think too much of my neck. I wouldn't be any use at all nowadays, how the bunch sprints come in.
We were the guys who were going back to work on Monday morning after the race, whereas, of course, the Russian riders, the East German riders, the Belgian riders, they were all in organised amateur teams and rode bikes full-time.
I finished, and the very next day I drove to Stafford and I rode 110 miles Stafford Grand Prix and I won that. And then the next day I went to work.
We didn't want to stop. We just wanted to go on and on because you were in this total little bubble where the only thing that mattered was the race. The only thing that matters was getting through the race.
Actually, when it finished, you were a bit lost for what to do. But a week after that, say a fortnight after finishing the tour, you'd be flying because you get the benefit of all those miles in your legs.
I was just hanging on for grim death when this film was shot, basically. It was it was one of the best experiences of my life.
I could have gone for a lot of the professional teams, or the top professional teams in Europe actually, but it wasn't a very clean situation, so it wasn't then, and I just didn't want to get involved in the drug scene. So then I turned for a London firm, also with Cyclists, which is a very famous company. And I had a good 10 years. As I say, I came fourth in the professional road race championships. I won 2 national championships. And I won all the major races what were going. So I couldn't complain at all, really. But if I'd have done it on the continent, I'd most probably been that much richer, but I might have been dead. I'd say 150 mile a week now. I'm sponsored better now than at any time in my life. I might try and think I've had enough, and everybody keeps, ringing me up saying, are you out, so I can't get away from it. So I suppose I'll end up, where on a bike.
Do you want me to carry on like this all afternoon?
No, that's all right. I was just